James, did you know Kenny was in a movie?
Where?
This is Kenny right here.
The left part of your screen.
That
James.
is
There's
hilarious.
Kenny right here. Kenny was in
Okay.
the movie.
Kenny, is that you?
That's me.
We had
That's
to
me,
pause
the
it.
Hustle 2008.
We had to pause it because once we, look at him, and now it's gone.
No, make a hand motion and everything.
Wow.
Movie star.
That was a method actor. A method actor.
Oh, that's great. Oh, this is the
man,
best
good
day
stuff.
ever. That's amazing.
Shout out Deion Taylor, man. Big ups to my guy, man.
Now we've got an award-winning movie producer, and we've got an actor.
Catch Kenny Caron, IDMB.
Screen Actors Guild over here. These two.
Yikes.
Just D'Lo over here slumming it with a couple members of the SAG.
Oh, man. And Jesse, I'm not making it. Darren's Dance Groove was in this movie.
Man,
Top 15 at least.
Tony Cox was in this movie. He's the little guy in Friday.
y'all need to leave Casey's hairline in that video alone.
Oh, it's been, there wasn't no hairline. I was
I was
bald.
like, look, that's what I thought.
There wasn't no
Somebody
hairline.
in the chat.
That was
How long has Casey been
2008.
bald for?
I've been bald since I was 22 or something like, or I shaved my head at 22. Yeah,
Oh, man.
you
That
ain't
was the
gonna
best.
find
That was
too
worth
many-
it.
Well,
Pictures
that
of
was
me.
absolutely
That was
worth
worth
it.
the
I wasn't
payoff.
sure if I was going to be able to find it, scan
It's
into it
going
like
from the
that, but we got
disappointment
it.
to the next scene. Oh, he's right there.
Yeah, there it is. Well, the idea that he gets cropped out is just chef's kiss fantastic. Oh, James, we're having fun laughing because we're not talking about the Kings.
Oh, yeah. Well,
We can keep going with that. Just you guys go ahead, lead the way.
The only
bring
thing
us down
the
again.
only thing you could do with the Kings about it involves laughing is laugh at them. Man, this is obviously the tip off to a huge homestand tonight. And just you had the heartbreaker against LA. You had a 29-point loss, a 26-point loss, a 16-point loss. Maybe tonight it'll just be a 6-point loss. Who knows? But what have you seen over the last? I'm going to dumb it down to 3 games instead of including that Clippers game because I didn't really have a problem with the Clippers game. What have you seen the last 3 that has just been so bad?
I don't know how to describe it. They just look like 8 players, like that are playing that just aren't playing together. They just look like a collection of players and not a team. And I don't know how else to describe it. It feels like every time you think that you've got this team figured out a little bit, or they go on a little bit of a run, they have some, a couple of games where they're missing Sabonis, a couple of games where they're missing Malik Monk, and then they just look like they're starting at square one again. And I feel bad, to like sit here and critique them again and again and again, but that's our job. And when you watch a team that goes out there and just doesn't look like they're connected at all on either side of the ball, that's a huge problem. I looked it up over the last 4 games. Like this team's offensive rating is a 107 and their defensive rating is a 127.5 or something. They're like a negative 20.4 net rating. Like that's what we're looking at. That's what it looks like on the court. It's just they look like one of the worst teams in basketball. And I know that that's not the case. I know that this team is not one of the worst teams in basketball. So for me, I just, how many times can a team lose its way in one season? I don't know, but I've run out of fingers and toes at this point to keep counting. And it feels like every time you think that they're moving one way, they decide to prove you wrong.
James, I gave them a little bit of grace. And like I said, I'm not sure if that's necessarily the right word because you got to acknowledge what they've looked like this past week. It's been awful. But what we saw this past week is kind of the first time I feel at least we've seen that from this group. We'll just say under Doug Christie. You can rationalize or make excuses or give explanations for the Knicks game and maybe even the Warriors game. Friday was just awful, just absolutely awful. There was nothing to rationalize about their performance, their effort, and their focus in that game. But like I said, that's been the anomaly. They've been, to me at least, they've been pretty tough for the past 3-4 weeks. And this past week has just been a bad week. Do you think it was just potentially a bad week? Not saying that they won't go on and lose games, but to see them play the way they've played this past week, do you think it might have been just a bad week, or is this who they are in your eyes?
It's a tough one, Kenny. I do believe, like what you said, that the Knicks game, there was a reason why the Knicks game happened, right? We're talking about a team that played the Clippers the night before and went to overtime, and everyone played 45 minutes, and there was a reason why that game happened. I'm not giving them any leeway at all for the Golden State game. I thought that was just, like you didn't get off the team bus. And then you follow that up with another game that looks identical to it. And that's the problem. Like when you start to see the same exact things show up in multiple games, then that's where it becomes like a trend. And you start to get like concerned about those trends. So they've got to figure it out. I mean, again, Malik Monk, talked about, how he sat on the sidelines and watched and thought that he could probably be a better distributor and he needs to look for his teammates more. And then he comes out and he leads a team in field goal attempts 3 games in a row. You have the Zach LaVine thing where he goes from, scoring 30 one night to going 5 of 10 from the field the next night, 5 of 6 the next night. And then, the next game. And then, what we saw on Friday to me was a player who midway through between the third and the fourth quarters, realized that he was about to be roasted again for shooting the ball 6 or 7 times and came out in the fourth quarter and put up numbers when the game was over. And so I think that there are concerns that we're seeing from this group that, you don't really know how to put your finger on. Like, why is it that they've let go of the rope? And why is it that they're defending the 3-point line like they did early in the season, like the first week of the season, when, this isn't even the same group of players? It's just not. I mean, for the most part, you switched out, like, I don't know what, 4 of the 8 rotational players. So like, there's a lot of questions that we have to ask. And I don't want to be a downer the whole time, because that's not what we're here for. We're here to just call how we see it. But there are definitely some concerns, and the games, the 3 games, 4 games that you just lost right there, that might be one of the weak spots in your schedule for the next 3 weeks. And it wasn't an easy spot in your schedule, but Phoenix isn't a good team. We saw Phoenix do that to you on Friday and then turn around on Sunday and just get walloped. Like, that's not a good team. The Warriors, they're a good team. They're playing really well right now. The Knicks, again, not a bad team, but they were missing their leading scorer. So like, these are problems that you have to address and you have to figure out. And unfortunately for us, we have to talk about time and time again.
Hammer, I don't feel like we're talking about, I think my biggest concern is I don't feel like we're talking about any new problems. Like 3-point defense, it's certainly not a new problem. It just feels like for some reason over the last handful of games, like it's gotten significantly worse. Mm-hmm. Like teams are just coming in and it's just all money in. They have no problem hitting threes against Sacramento, and the Kings are just still kind of stuck there. We used the argument after the trade deadline about gelling, about coming together, about all of this. And then it felt like for a stretch of games, maybe 5 to 7 that they did. Now, all of a sudden, it feels like everything that's falling apart. You brought up the Zach LaVine thing a second ago. I can't figure out why all of a sudden you're not taking shots, why all of a sudden you're getting aggressive and, glorified garbage minutes in the fourth quarter. It just, what's happening with them almost feels unexplainable. Like, what is the excuse for this right now?
Yeah, like, and just to pull up out of the chat, is it something Doug is or isn't doing? Asking me the question. Like, look, this is a professional basketball team. This isn't rec league. This isn't, even a college level team. And not only that, but this isn't a young team. This is like the Kings rotation is all like 25 and up, between 25 and 35. Like, these dudes are mature. They know the game. They know what time it is in the season. They understand what's at stake. And like, it does not work to have a players only meeting, a starters only meeting, a coaches only meeting, like again and again and again. Like, how many times have we heard over the past, 15 years that the Kings have to get back to basics? They've got to strip down their offense, strip down their defense, get back to basics. Well, this shouldn't be that team. This is a team of, very, very talented players, and they need to go out and they need to play better. And like, this is not something Doug is doing or isn't doing. And I'm not just saying that. Like, this is a team that has to go out there and just play better, and they need to play harder. And they're going to face a Memphis team tonight that plays for 48 minutes, regardless of who's playing. And if you're not ready for that, then you're going to get rolled over again, like you did the previous 4 games. Again, this is the first time under Doug Christie's run here that they've even lost 3 games in a row, let alone 4. I think he's done a really good job of getting this team ready and having them be resilient. The lack of resiliency in this week alone is just kind of startling and confusing.
How much of what's going on with this team, and you mentioned Malik Monk specifically, and I was listening to you guys earlier, and I agree with you, and I understand it's not to say it's all his fault or anything else like that, but you mentioned what he had to say coming off of the injury, and then leading the team in field goal attempts. How much of his struggles, and maybe even the team struggles, is not making shots? You know what I mean? Like Malik Monk, we talked about, he's 3 of 21, I believe, from 3 in the last 3 games. If he was 10 of 21, like, things would be different. Like, he's just missing shots, and he's getting good looks. And I think, you got a guy like Zach LaVine. If he was more aggressive, maybe things would be different. Keegan Murray has gone back to not necessarily hitting shots. How much of that, is it that simple? Like, if they start shooting the ball a little bit better, can you see them playing better brand of basketball, and something that people can latch onto a little bit more?
I think it's interesting because you do have somebody who's shooting the ball really well. He just won't shoot it. And, as a team, it's your job to, when you have an elite scoring player like Zach LaVine, it's your job to get Zach LaVine the ball and to get him in positions where he can shoot the ball the best way possible. And everybody on that team should look. I mean, look at his numbers since he joined the Kings. It's something like 52.2% from the field, 42.4% from 3, and he's shooting over 90% from the line. He's a 50, 40, 90 guy in his 17 games with the Kings. Like, if Zach's not shooting enough, then the teammates need to be chirping at him. If Zach is not getting the ball enough, he needs to be chirping at his teammates, and his teammates need to be talking to each other about it. Like, the easiest way, I get what you're saying about, guys, again, Malik went 0 for 8 from 3 in the last game. You're going to have bad shooting nights, but Zach isn't having a bad shooting night. So why are you not working your tail off to get your teammate open who's dominating right now? And so that's where I think it all plays into a bigger thing. I don't think that there's like 15 shots a game that Zach LaVine's just passing up. I just think his teammates aren't looking for him. He's not being aggressive enough to go ask for the ball. So I agree about the shots not falling, but I think we all know when shots aren't falling, you look for the hot hand. When shots aren't falling, you go to the reliable people in your lineup who are hitting shots, and you try to work to get them into the right position. And that's not what the Kings are doing as a team right now. And that's a bigger problem.
So
He got to shoot the ball. Like it's Zach LaVine. Like he got to shoot the ball. Yeah, I say that if I say this about Keegan Murray, I'm damn sure going to say this about Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you get the ball damn near every possession in some form or fashion. And Doug Christie is not telling you better not shoot this ball. Zach LaVine, shoot the basketball. Like
Yeah.
shoot. Some of this stuff is like I think Malik Monk taking shots or whatever, but it's not like he's coming down, dribbling the ball up the court and shooting the first shot. Like the ball is touching other people, it gets back to him, and he gonna shoot it, or DeMar DeRozan gonna shoot it. Like these other guys have opportunities, and Zach LaVine specifically, like I think there are some occasions where maybe they're not looking for him, but like I said, if I'm gonna be on Keegan Murray and talk about you need to shoot the ball, Keegan Murray, you're a role player. Zach LaVine, you're a borderline all-star. You absolutely should be going and getting the basketball and shooting it yourself. I can't give him that pass for shooting 6 times because they ain't looking for him. Shoot the ball, Zach LaVine. You're touching it enough. Shoot the rock.
Yeah, that and like Keegan doesn't bring the ball up. That's always been my argument to the Keegan Murray thing. Keegan doesn't naturally bring the ball up the court and like get to initiate the offense by himself. Zach LaVine does all the time.
Mhm.
So, and not only that, but I think the Kings kind of got into a groove where Zach was really, really playing well. Before this 4-game stretch where we've seen him just not shoot the ball, like he is coming up back-to-back 30-plus point games. So, like, where did that go, and how do you get back to it? So that's going to be like priority number one. But I also like just looking at the data from the last 4 games. Like they're just walking the ball up the court. I don't get it. They're like 27th in pace over those games. Like you want to look at why their offense is not working. It's because they're walking the ball up every possession. They're allowing the defense to get set time and time again, and then they're getting beat on transition baskets, and they're getting beat on second chance points. They're not rebounding the ball well. Like as much as I want to, again, like we'll pile on Zach LaVine for not shooting enough. And even like to pile on Malik Monk, I've said this a couple of times, like since he's been back, he's led the team in field goal percent and field goal attempts 3 times, right? But that's like 13, 13, and 18 shots. That's not outside of what Malik Monk should be shooting. But if you're going to make a point that you need to distribute more and then you don't distribute more, then we have to call it out, right? But I would even say, like, even if you go back to the game the other night, DeMar DeRozan was extremely efficient from the field, like just couldn't miss, right? Had a very solid game, scored 23 points. He had 1 assist and 0 rebounds in 30 something minutes. Like, so we're to a point again where guys who, they know what time it is. And I think that's the most disheartening thing. These are some of the biggest games of the season for this team. We keep talking about, is this the biggest game of the season? And the answer is, yeah, each one of them has been so far. They just keep getting bigger and bigger and more important and more important. And the guys that you need to step up and live in the moment and be your best players, they just haven't answered the call. And that's a really difficult reality to be in if you're the Kings. And because it's not just about this year, it's about, okay, how do we structure this team moving forward? If this is what happens when we get into complicated or pressure situations, we need those guys to rise to the occasion. We don't need, for our role players to have, like, you need your role players to rise to the occasion as well, but they can't be your best players on certain nights. And that's what's kind of happened here. So it's a difficult situation, and they've got to figure out how to get out of it together.
Do you feel like they're disengaged?
No, I don't know if it's disengaged as much as that horrible mentality of here we go again has slipped into their conscience. And like we've seen that so many times with this franchise where it's like, oh boy, here we go again. They hit 3 threes. It's like, oh, here we go again. We can't defend the 3. Now we're going to get torched. And it just feels like this self-fulfilling prophecy where you allow things to slip away that you shouldn't allow to slip away. And, even I get schematically, the Kings have tried to allow, if when you're playing the Warriors, if Quentin Post or Draymond Green or Gary Payton the second beats you on the corner three, it is what it is. You'll live with it because you're doing your best to stop these other two. But there has to be adjustments made. When those guys don't miss, you can stop Steph all you want, but the game's already over. Like, what good is it to sit there and send two guys at Steph the whole game when you're down 20? Because the other guys have burned you the whole time, and you can't just hope that the laws of averages will catch up to you, and that'll shift. So, yeah, just there's too many things to just say, well, it's just one thing. You have to look at how this whole thing is playing out at the same time, and it's too many things. Again, how many comparisons do we have to make? It's like the Dutch boy trying to plug all the holes in the dam, and every time you think you've stopped one leak, another one pops up. And that's where they're at right now.
Yeah, I want to see what these guys do this week. I mean, they've got enough games, 4 games this week. I want to see what they can do and what they look like. You know what I mean? Because I know winning is what you're trying to do or whatever, but I want to see a pulse from this team. Didn't have a pulse last week. And that was, and once again, I'll continue to say it, that was abnormal for this group in the last month. I've seen them with a pulse. They've lost games. They've lost by big margins. They're not infallible, but they lose a big game. They get blown out. They come back the next night and they compete. You know what I mean? Or they win a game, or they win a stretch of games. And we didn't see that all week. You know what I mean? You think back even when they first got here, and it was Orlando beat them in Zach LaVine's first game. Next night they go to Portland. They lose the game, but they competed. Mm-hmm. They were there. They didn't back down. And we haven't seen that this week. And that's what concerns me. And I want to see a level of competition and toughness that I've come to expect from this team in the last 3-4 weeks that wasn't there this past week. That's what I want to see from this group.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you have to see. If not, I mean, I don't think there's any way they'll lose out of the play-in. Right. You've only got 16 games left. Again, Phoenix has the most difficult schedule in the NBA. The Kings their schedule is down to like the 4th most difficult schedule in the NBA. And after the next 6 games, the Kings schedule really, it won't look that difficult. The last 10 are actually a lot easier than what they're going through right now. But Phoenix is going to have a really difficult time. Dallas can barely field a team. And so, I don't think there's any way the Kings drop. I mean, could they drop from 9 to 10? Sure. But I don't think that there's a way for them to drop completely out of the play-in. But, what does that mean? You don't want to go and just represent yourself so poorly in a play-in. And maybe you win one game because, you draw Dallas or you draw a bad Phoenix team in the first game. But the way they're playing right now, what would make you think that they're going to do well in a second play-in game, even if they get past the first? And then if somehow they make it past that, that'll be the quickest 4-game series of all time. Now, if they turn things around, they still have time to get together, get on the court together, practice. Although from here on out, again, they've got a stretch of 5 games and 7 nights coming up. There won't be any time for practice or anything else in that stretch. But, maybe they'll have the ability to, gel a little bit and hopefully turn things around.
Okay, we'll come back. We have talked about what got the Kings here. They're sitting back at 500. There's not a lot of room for error entering the 7-game homestand, and it is a brutal 7-game homestand. It starts tonight at the Golden One Center. We'll talk with James about that when D'Lo and Casey return here on Sacramento Sports Leader ESPN 1320. Clear.
So, I guess maybe we could dive into this a little bit more tomorrow. But the 49ers were reportedly trying to get Dre Greenlaw back even after Denver had an agreement done.
Oh,
they were rushing to get that done. They were trying to flip his decision back to San Francisco. I think they were pretty persuasive, but not persuasive enough.
That's weird. Yeah, what a mess. Like the Niners situation is just weird. All of it's weird. So, I mean, we haven't seen a team just, go all in on trying to fix their salary cap situation like this. At least not in San Francisco. And it's kind of strange because you're doing this in a year where, how many more seasons does Trent Williams have? How many more seasons does Kittle or Fred Warner? How many more productive seasons do you have of Christian McCaffrey, all that stuff?
The thing I always say, though, is they didn't get rid of anybody that it wasn't time to get rid of. The one person they wanted to hold on to, and they tried, was Dre Greenlaw. Everybody else, it was time to go.
I would say most of them, but even, like Malik Collins, you could have used him for this season. Like they don't have a defensive tackle right now that is a starting level.
Go draft one. Malik Collins was cool, but clearly he didn't affect anything. Like defensive line, interior defensive line was terrible. He was part of that. So if you got to pay some more money to make that happen, I'll go find one of these young bulls.
Yeah.
Leonard Floyd was interesting. That's one that I thought Leonard Floyd did pretty good. So that's another one that I kind of hated to see that one happen.
And you did that to save $1.4 million or something. Like you gave him you had to clear up the 8.6. Now that might have been so it would fire off this year and not drag out into the next couple.
They bring him back. That's what they tend to do.
Steven Castaneda, my sweater is actually green. I don't know that you can tell that, but and NBA guru Zach, which is right here. Dude, I cover the NBA, so on a game night, like I'll be either in the coaches in the media room or in the locker room at 9:30.
Shoot your shot, though.
Yeah.
Get him up.
You got to find the date and the time that works, man.
And if Levine shot like that, Kings might be in better shape.
Dame, could you do me a favor? How much time we got, Jesse?
We got like a minute and a half at least.
Play that clip a little bit more. I think they go back outside.
Oh, you think there's more of you?
I think there is.
More Kenny. More Kenny.
This movie
more
one time.
Kenny.
Oh,
they go back
outside. Here we go.
outside.
Oh, yeah. Where?
No.
Come on, man. Where's my man?
I don't think. Oh, that's the back. That's my shoulder.
Well, I don't want no shoulder. Where's my boy?
I want to see you take a punch right now.
Hey, that's my girl, Nikki.
Nikki who?
McElroy. We went to high school together.
The one that was
She's
fighting?
an actress, yeah. Right there.
Oh.
Well, I had the wrong screen up to do the
Man,
pointer.
no more Casey.
My girl, Nikki. Still fine.
this is spectacular.
We want Kenny. We. Oh,
They cut me off.
man, no.
They cut me.
There he is.
Another
Hey!
hand motion again. Another hand motion. Look at it.
That is the black man's pose from the early
Look at
2000s.
the polo though. That's crazy.
That is the black man's pose from the 2000s.
The polo
right there.
is on my forearms.
Man.
Oversized polo.
There's the two main characters, and then there's Kenny Caraway right there.
Got
Third.
the big
Third on the
necklace
scene.
right there. Hey, my boy. Yes, sir. Let's see how long he stay on screen this time. Oh, he got some real screen time this time.
Look at- He's even
Yeah.
like, oh, that guy's probably thinking about something.
Yeah. Look at
Oh, he made a face.
This is spectacular.
We're coming back, James. Radio audience, there's more Kenny. There is more Kenny in the hustle. If you go to youtube.com, search The Hustle 2008.
Oh, man.
The entire movie will come up.
Shout out Deion Taylor.
Fast forward to about the 56-minute mark, and you'll see our guy out there earning
That's got to be
his Screen Actors Guild card.
A 3X polo I had on.
Oh, at least.
They must have seen something, like a star or whatever, because the first scene, Kenny's not there. Like, it's
not
just,
there.
Yeah, it's just booth. Second scene, oh, wow, this guy's in here for like 2 seconds. Third scene, oh, wow, that guy's like 7 seconds. He makes a thinking face, walks away. He's prominent.
Oh, yeah.
Man, you know, I was hyping
They're like,
up.
hey, we like that guy. Get that guy in the striped shirt, more in it. Come on, let's go.
He's labeled as prominent extra, Kenny Caraway in the movie.
We're all trying to have fun, and then there's Ben. Yes, I hate this team. Not the individual players, but the team makeup. It makes absolutely zero sense.
That's a good callback from Ben, who's really joining the show 3 hours late. He just finished the Insiders a couple of minutes ago.
Ben's gonna love this part of the show.
He just got done listening to John Cena.
Hammer, KC asked this question earlier. It maybe less of a question, more of a statement. Do you think fans right now hate this team?
Oh, you know what I don't like about this time is that fans start turning on players, and I have seen that, and I don't like that because, like, look, like, fans shouldn't be turning on Malik Monk right now. They shouldn't be turning it. Like, you can see it in, like, on the social media stuff. Like, they're turning on players. Yeah, I mean, I think they're very disappointed in this team. They also feel like, they were sold the possibility of a, 6 to 8 year playoff run, and everyone knows that that's now over. And they're, so yeah, I think that fans are upset, and rightfully so. Like, their team won 48 games 2 years ago and was third in the Western Conference. And here we are, 2 years later, and they've fired a coach. They've traded their star player. They're 500, and they don't look like that if they're going to make the play-in tournament, they're backing into it. And that's kind of, it's a tough spot to be in.
It is, man. And the same thing as you, James. Malik Monk, just 6 months ago, 9 months ago, we were all super excited that he chose to stay here in Sacramento, and he's having a tough time. He's trying to figure out a new role on the fly, and I'm not here to make excuses for him, but he's not trying to miss shots. He's struggling. He's not playing well. He's not playing well, but I think he comes to play with effort every night. He's trying to work his way through learning a new position and being efficient as the guy that we know him to be. And it's a struggle right now, but I would hope people aren't as down as I've seen the same thing for as you have, James, as they have been lately on a guy like Malik Monk, man. Because like I said, just 9 months ago, we were ready to throw a parade because he chose Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, that's the tough thing. Fans, I don't tell fans how to fan, but you can see sort of the temperature changing with the player, and you never like to see that. Like, again, Malik wants to be really good, and he wants to, star for this team. The fact is, he's just going through a tough patch, just like, any player would that went from playing 26, 27 minutes a night to 35 minutes a night. And then watching, there's the star player that he was playing alongside go away, and all of a sudden you do have a new role. And I don't think it's that much different than his previous role, but it's different enough. And he hasn't adapted well enough, and missing time doesn't help either. So I think everyone will be just fine. Whether that means that they're going to win basketball games or not, like, I have no idea. Like, this team, if anyone thinks that they can guess what this team is going to be or who they are and all that stuff, you're just wrong. But, I do think that there are some good things that are still happening. There is some positivity. There is a possibility that they are able to right the ship and show us some grit here down the stretch and actually make a little bit of a run. We just have to see it happen.
Do you think you talking about Malik, what we say, 17 games left, something like that?
16?
16? does Doug need to make a change? Does something need to change in the starting lineup for, the final 16 games, or for a stretch of this 16 games, or for this homestand? Or like, does Doug have to try something?
Yeah, I would say yes, but then again, I don't even know what that would be. Because again, we talk about Malik hasn't played extremely well and his 3-point shot isn't falling and all that stuff, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't still give you at least something as a point guard. And so, like, I'm not sure that it's Malik that has to go out of the starting lineup. I'm not sure that it's your $43 million man playing next to him, or your future Hall of Famer playing next to him that should go to the bench. And at the end of the day, I don't think Doug is going to have any of that happen. I think we're probably seeing the lineup that's going to be out there for the rest of the season. And barring injury, I hope I'm wrong, because I think that if you get a deep enough sample size, you get, say you lose tonight and you've lost 5 in a row, like, there has to come a point where you have to actually do something different, or you're just allowing whatever's happening to happen, and you can just check off that box and say, okay, well, this season's over. We're just gonna, we'll end up in the play-in, but who knows what happens from there. Like, there has to be a point where you have to hold players accountable on the court for not playing better and not playing together as a team, and you have to make changes. So, but I don't know if we're going to see that or not.
Everything seemed to be okay with Domantas Sabonis. I know you kind of looked at that hamstring a little bit on Friday night and looked uncomfortable a couple times, but you haven't heard anything about him being an issue for tonight at all, huh?
No, last time I checked, he wasn't on the injury report. Trey Lyles was still on the injury report as questionable. He missed last game. I haven't seen it. I did not like the play. Talk about a couple of really weird plays by the Phoenix Suns. Like the Plumlee shot to the face.
That was crazy.
That was one of the stupidest plays I've ever seen. Just like no reason, just run up and smash a guy with your forearm. That didn't make any sense. And then the other play, the Ryan Dunn play, I get it. You get frustrated and stuff, but like that wasn't a basketball play at all. That should have been reviewed for trying to throw Domas to the floor, and just like weird stuff going on in that game. I think he's all right. I don't think he'll be 100% until the end of the season, especially with all of these back-to-backs coming up. There might come a point where he's not able to go in a back-to-back. But Domas wants to be out there every single game. And, I don't want to see what he looks like after 5 games and 7 nights. I think that's going to be really, really tough. And that might be where you just kind of throw your hands up in the air and go, look, if we're going to lose to OKC no matter what, a player's health might be more important than running him out here for this game.
But you can't, if you're Doug, and I don't think, and I think this is true for the players. I'll say Domas in this case, you can't approach any game in this 7-game homestand like that, can you? Like, you have to go out there with the belief you're going to beat Oklahoma City, with the belief you're going to beat Memphis and Cleveland, and you're going to go 7-0 at home. Like, you have to approach everything you do. Your margin for error is slim.
Mm-hmm.
It's virtually non-existent. The one thing you got going for them, as you laid out earlier, James, everyone below them stinks. Like, you keep watching Phoenix, like maybe, and then they do something where you go, nope, ain't gonna be them,
and yell at each other.
Yeah, now they're back to fighting with each other. So it's you still want to maintain like something here if you're Sacramento to try to finish out this season, somewhat strong and perhaps get something done in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to approach every game that way, and you got to hope that your team again responds and catches lightning in a bottle here, and you've got something to work with. But I'm also, looking at player health, and the Kings track players after warmups, and they track them before they go out in the warmup, and then they track when they come off. They have them jump on the steel pads that record a whole bunch of like data, and they're watching to see how their body's responding and all that stuff. They'll be able to see at least some sort of, like some limitations in Sabonis that they'll have to keep an eye on. But, the last thing you want to do is watch him grab at his hamstring, because if that thing, if he like strains it or gets a pull, a grade 2 pull or whatever, he's done for the year. Like we're already seeing that with other players that are shutting it down right now. And you just hope that that's not him. Again, he does everything he can to be healthy and be on the court as much as possible. And you hope that he's able to maintain, even though the schedule is pretty brutal.
Hammer, get out of here. You got a long drive and some interesting weather ahead of you. So we'll see you in the morning.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
Take care, Ham.